We're A few of you were talking about how good the music was right before I switched over to the intro song. I wonder how many of your opinions changed right after that. You're like, oh god damn it, nice smooth jazz. Suddenly he's going over this metal shit. Spotty audio. Is that what I'm hearing? I don't like that. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me now. I think you should be able to hear me now. I think I just had myself muted. Now it's good. Okay, yeah, we're all good now. As I was saying, I noticed that a few of you were talking about how good the music was right before I switched over to the intro. So I wonder if your opinions changed after that. Nice smooth jazz. We go over into this hardcore screamo metal shit. You're like, ah, fuck. Oh, so before I get into the meaty parts of the stories today, actually, I do want to say I was probably going to start doing this more often and start doing a little more of a probably streaming my actual episodes themselves rather than just uploading them. It allows me to interact with everybody a little bit more. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes, and if I like it, then I'll probably continue with this in the future. First thing I wanted to bring up, which I didn't actually realize because until after I posted my last video, which was concerning Canada and NATO, was Justin Trudeau is really not making his situation any better. As many of us probably all know, there is the hashtag going around on Twitter for the last at least last couple weeks, True Grope, because of everything that's happened. Oh, it's probably got to be longer than that now, actually, because the story first came out in about June, but he didn't address it till July. But he's really his actions in NATO were the NATO summit over the last few days really weren't the helping this situation. I came across this video a little while ago, and yeah, pretty much Justin Trudeau arrives and completely ignores the Belgian PM's his handshake just to go right to his wife. Oh boy. I mean, he brushed it off pretty well, I guess, all things considered, but I thought that was not helping his case considering everything that's coming out against him over the last little bit. With this whole True Grope thing that's on the go, he probably was not the right move to make. But you know Trudeau. I mean, he could be a pretty dumb person. Now, we could always call into question whether he's actually just stupid or whether he's playing the game. And he's playing the game a certain way. He's trying to make himself appear stupid when really working behind the scenes. I guess that's up for debate more than anything else. But as we get into our main story of the day, what ended up happening over the last couple of days has we've had a fight that's been going on with we've had a fight that's been going on between our federal government and the Ontario provincial government. So pretty much what's ended up happening over the last little bit is, it all has to do with the border, what's going on the border. And I'll go back periodically to the chat, but I don't have it opened with me right now, so I'll take a look through what you guys are saying as well. But right now, it has to do with our border. We have a bunch of people coming across our border, and the government highly has not been doing anything about it. And now that we have a new government in place, that we have the Ford government that's in charge in Ontario now, they're not really going along with Trudeau and the border crisis the same way that the Kathleen Wynne's Liberals did. Kathleen Wynne's Liberals more or less was lock and step with Trudeau. I don't even know if I saw one time where they actually went against the Trudeau government. They seemed to she was one of his strongest allies, and it's a good thing we got him out because we need that. Looks like Quebec's going to fall next, possibly. But right now we have the immigration minister, Ahmed Hussen. Hussein, I don't know. He doesn't have an I in his name, so I think it's Hussen. But he got into a bit of an argument with Lisa MacLeod, who she was being very critical of the way that it's being handled. They want Ottawa to pay for everything that's going on in the border crisis. So they don't want to deal with it alone, and they've been asking for help for some time. Toronto has been asking for help with everything that's going on. But the immigration minister had quite a few words to say to Lisa MacLeod, actually, and we're going to take a quick look at that. Just give it a second to get going.
They've intentionally chosen to use false language with respect to so-called queue jumping, when we have told them over and over again there's no such thing. Asylum seekers are processed in a separate queue at the IRB, and all the other regular immigration programs are processed by IRCC. And conflating the two knowingly...
Well, that's not good. I think I pressed something a little too much. My computer gets a little spotty when I'm streaming at the same time. So we're going to actually just quickly restart. It's a short video.
To use false language with respect to so-called queue jumping, when we have told them over and over again there's no such thing. Asylum seekers are processed in a separate queue at the IRB, and all the other regular immigration programs are processed by IRCC. And conflating the two knowingly is irresponsible, it's divisive, it's fear-mongering, and it is not Canadian. They're victimizing these people, they're demonizing them, they're trying to pit one group of newcomers against another by talking about a fake and false queue jumping narrative which simply doesn't exist. And it is really unfortunate, and I can assure you, on behalf of Canadians, I will fight back against that narrative of fear with facts.
What I saw here today was an attempt to talk, him calling me un-Canadian, which I take great offense to, and I do hope he will apologize and reconsider his language. I also won't be bullied into accepting what the federal government is doing. His answer was directed at me to try and intimidate me, and I will not be intimidated. I think maybe the minister should sit down, have a nice cup of tea, calm down a little bit, and maybe phone me and apologize for calling me un-Canadian. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what she had to say on the matter, and one thing, this whole idea that Lisa MacLeod is un-Canadian simply because she does not agree with the way that the border situation is being handled is absolutely ridiculous, and it's a little ironic too, because Hussen is he's an immigrant to Canada, while Lisa MacLeod was born here. Now, of course, if Hussen's gone through his Canadian citizenship, he is a Canadian. But the fact that he was someone who came to our country, immigrated here, and then he's going to lecture her how un-Canadian her actions are is absolutely stupid. Now, I actually have some beef with Lisa MacLeod. Nothing personal, of course. It's not like I know her. But just for the way that she kind of acted during the Patrick Brown situation, she didn't go around the proper channels, and I found that she was condemning him before he had his right to defend himself. So I'm not personally the biggest fan of Lisa MacLeod, but she knows the job. She's been elected in politics time and time again. She's been very involved with the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. So it's not like she's some lightweight over there. She definitely knows what she's talking about. And it's just the Ford government isn't going to play the game anymore. And from what I can tell, this is how Ontarians feel and a majority of other Canadians. They don't like the way that the federal government is handling this situation. They feel that the government is putting these people ahead of other they're putting these people ahead of the rights of other Canadians, that they're making Canadians feel like, who've lived here their entire lives, feel like second-class citizens for these people coming across the border. And the idea too, and I've stated this before, the idea that America is a place you need to flee from, that you need to seek asylum from, especially in the numbers that we're talking about, is stupid. America is one of the most prosperous countries in our world. Really, Canadians are getting pissed off because nothing is being done about this situation, and the numbers are showing that. The numbers are reflecting this whole situation. As we take a look at this graph right here, that was released, we're starting to see that this is where the boarding crossing is. Here, I'll enlarge it a little bit for you guys. You just have to give it a second, because again, I got a crappy laptop. So here we go. So this is going back to January 2017, all the way up to April, May. It looks like June would be the last, around June is when the last area was, last time they did this. But as we can see, when we were going back to January 2017, we had 350 people that were crossing our border illegally. Then it suddenly spiked, especially by summertime. We take a look at that as a huge spike between by about July and August of last year. We're seeing, well over tenfold of people that are coming in now. And of course, it's sort of gone down a little bit, but the point is we still have thousands of people that are going across our border illegally, and nothing's being done about it. And people have shown videos of when they come across the border. These people that come across our border, they are well dressed. They have a lot of clothes and shoes that are just, they look brand new. They're carrying chains. They've got headphones. They've got new iPhones, the latest iPhones. What kind of refugees are these? They're not real refugees, especially considering how a number of them are. Canada is not their first stop. Canada, they've already moved from one country to another and to America eventually, and then now they're making the trip all the way up to Canada. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I didn't manage to pull it up before I started streaming. I actually kind of forgot about it till just now. But one thing that I actually could explain all this situation has to do with, there was a picture that was taken of our immigration minister, Ahmed Hussen, and it was him standing next to George Soros' son. Now, George Soros also has the Open Society Foundation. This is somebody that wants open borders, and they want to just flood our countries with as many immigrants as possible. It's all part of the plan. This is what you have to do, and this is what they are trying to do anyway. And so far, our government is allowing it to happen. Doesn't really surprise me, considering how our government, many of our members in government are, they are in bed with people such as Soros. I mean, there's that picture of Soros meeting Justin Trudeau, and it looks like friggin' Soros is giving Trudeau orders than anything else. So it's just absolutely ridiculous. And we can't maintain these numbers for a few different reasons. One of the big reasons that we can't maintain these numbers is because we don't have the jobs and the housing for them. This is actually one of the biggest complaints by the PC government of Ontario right now. Doug Ford, meet Lisa MacLeod. They're arguing that they have a housing crisis. They just can't put these people anywhere. And hold on. So what's going to end up happening, without a doubt, is a number of these people are going to end up on the streets, which is just going to lead to more crime. We've already been seeing how there's a lot of crime that have been jumping in Toronto, especially. As we saw over the Canada Day weekend, there was a number of people that were shot. Thefts are up. Robberies. Everything, just about everything is up. I think actually robberies may have dropped a little bit from this time last year. But we're going to see that this is going to increase. We're going to continue down this path, and it's just going to lead to a bad situation. And it's going to get worse very soon, because we actually have this from the Globe and Mail that ended up coming out. And I think I kind of got it cut off a little bit. Hold on. Let me move that down. There we go. Make myself a little smaller. So let's talk about here. Deadline looms on hundreds of asylum seekers temporarily housed in Toronto student residence. And like, this is 54-bedroom dormitories in Centennial College now serve as a temporary home for 344 asylum seekers, including 96 families. Hundreds more are currently being housed in another student residence. But with less than a month before students return ahead of the school year, time is running out for refugee claimants who have yet to find more permanent home. And this is the big problem that they have right now, is the fact that these people are going to have to get kicked out. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It's going to happen sooner rather than later, and they're going to have nowhere to go. We're talking hundreds of refugees or the border crossers that are being housed there. Students are going to come back and pay and are paying for these rooms. So it's these other people who are currently being housed there who aren't paying for their rooms. They're going to get kicked out. And then this is going to lead us even more down the same route. Right now, too, we are about about 50% or a little over 50% of the people in homeless shelters in Toronto are people who cross the border illegally. And we're also, it's even Peel, the region of Peel, has started saying that they are going to take some of the people who come in because Toronto just can't house them anymore. But apparently, Hussen thinks it is being un-Canadian by bringing up these points, by showing that you have a real problem. He's trying to play this game of it's all about fear and divisiveness. And of course, who had to pipe up about this whole situation had to be Gerald Butts. Of course, Trudeau's butt buddy. I didn't even mean it that way, but it works out that way. But anyway, he went on Twitter and he more or less called Lisa MacLeod an alt-right leader, which is, first of all, showing ignorance to what the alt-right is and who they are. Because if he did know anything about the alt-right, he wouldn't be calling Lisa MacLeod an alt-righter. The other thing is too is who is he to pipe in with this thing? He is an independent civilian with his own opinion, but he's speaking up on behalf of the entire Canadian government when he's not an elected official. He's never been elected. He's the goddamn key secretary or something to Justin Trudeau, and he's been his friend for ever since they were children. So he's in no position to actually speak on behalf of the Canadian government. But he's going to take it upon himself anyway. And he's doing this all over again. If we remember that it was, I believe, the trip to India where he called out a lot of people that were criticizing Trudeau Nazis. He was making reference to rebel media and people of their ilk and things like that, where he was calling them Nazis. Literally used the word Nazis. So he's using that. Now he's using the alt-right. This is all that Gerald Butts ever really does. He doesn't bring anything to the game. In fact, one other thing about him is the fact that he's been involved, present during caucus meetings when there's absolutely no reason for him. The same thing with Katie Telford, who's another one of she was Trudeau's campaign manager during the election. But they're coming in and they're making their presence known in things like caucus meetings when they shouldn't be there. That's for elected officials. It's absolutely ridiculous what people are allowing, what Trudeau is allowing with this freaking government. Absolutely ridiculous. Alrighty, let's go to the chat real quick, see what you all are saying. That's going to be a little... Alright, I'll just do it on my phone. Give me a second, guys, and I'll see what you all have to say. So we got the spotting audio. Justin Trudeau, cringe channel. I like metal, but I'm 40 now. Thank goodness for his groupings. I hope more people come out. He's groped men too. Oh, Jesus Christ. There's just nothing stopping Justin Trudeau, whether it's women or men, I guess, eh? I haven't heard anything about this whole thing about groping men, but, He's stupid, he's playing games, and he is pure evil. Hey, Bold, what's going on? Anybody who doesn't know, Bold Like a Leopard is a guy that I work a lot with. We do a lot of streams together, and he also he's an American that takes his own perspective on the news. He pulls up the big stories of the day and ends up discussing them. He's a good channel. If you should go check him out. I highly recommend it. Quiet Man. They have better clothing and jewelry than I do. I shop at Value Village for me and my family. They get free homes. Fair. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's very rare for me to actually go out and buy myself some new clothes or things like that. But I guess that's what that government money is doing for them, eh? Oh, man. All right, let's see. Let's move on. What's our next topic of the day? Oh, yes. Oh, this is just gross. So, as many people know who have watched me for some time, one of my big things that I've really been against. Oh, I think before I go to that, I think I saw someone else popped in. Oh, little gray cells. YouTube stats lying again. No doubt, man. You were the one who sort of informed me about that sort of thing. So, as many people know who have watched me for some time, there's been one subject in particular that I have taken a lot of. I've been against, and I've spent a few different of my videos talking about this subject specifically. Those usually fall underneath my investigative pieces. Investigative. I think I'm screwing that word up. It just doesn't sound right when I say it. But anyway, the subject I'm talking about had to do with the idea of pedophile rings and pedophilia, and this is something that is absolutely disgusting. The fact that there's people who are actually engaging in this with little children. But the one thing that really concerns me these days is the fact that there's people out there that are doing everything they can in order to normalize it. In fact, one term I'm seeing that keeps coming up is pedosexual. That's one I'm hearing over and over again, and it's trying to downplay the idea of pedophilia, which doesn't surprise me because the word pedophile does come with a lot of stigma and connotation, as it should. But as I've been sort of watching over the last few years, there's a lot more people that are trying to make it seem like it's not such a big deal. I mean, there was that interview with Salon that they did a few years ago where they were talking to that ethical pedophile, where he says, where they end up saying that he's ethical because he has this attraction, but he doesn't go out, he doesn't try and pursue the little kids, but they're trying to make him seem honorable in this situation. But anyway, what I'm really getting into is this, and it just has to do with this idea that things like what we're seeing in this picture right here. It's some people are child lovers. Get over it. It says, love has no age. What the fuck? Both are, as this tweet that was captioned says, both are minority sexual orientation groups with a history of discrimination. We are committed to fighting the rights of pedosexuality. Oh, lovely. I think they're trying, it's because these groups have been trying to get in with the LGBT movement. I've heard they even have designed their own flag. Jesus Christ. Brand new symbol for pedosexuality. Say hello to New Age of Progress. New Age of Progress. And just, if we take a look at this symbol right here, down on the bottom left, it's just, it's got like the bigger, it's got the bigger symbol and then the smaller symbol, and it's just like the idea of it, it just makes me shudder. And then, like, we look over here, love is gender and age blind. Love is love. Stop the hate. I'm honestly happy that the LGBT Foundation is finally speaking out for pedosexual rights. Holy crap, guys. Are you kidding me right now? This was never something that was good in history. I mean, even things that, even when we look back on history, even at the time, it was very few societies that actually looked positively on pedophilia. I mean, like, well, the Greeks had their own problems with it back in the day, but it's just something that should never be an option. You can't have a small child, because this is usually the thing, is a lot of people are trying to present it as if these are teenagers or like close to the age of consent, which a lot of times is not the case. These are really underage kids. 5, 6, 7, 8. Some of them are even younger than that. Some of them are toddlers, and people are committing these acts against them. They can't consent at that age, but they're trying to make it sound like it's no big deal. Don't worry. You don't ever have to worry. Like, god damn. Now, the thing is, too, is as I understand it, as I've been paying some attention to this, I don't believe this is actually something that the LGBT community is trying to endorse. I think they're just trying, these pedophiles are trying to force their way into the LGBT movement. I'm sure there are people inside the movement that are trying to support this idea and try and play along with this idea of pedosexuality, but no. As far as I understand, most are not actually agreeing to this. I could be wrong, but that's just as I've sort of paid attention. It could be, too, that they're just trying not to bring too much attention to it yet and sort of slowly morph its way in. But this is sort of the slippery slope argument that a lot of people like to bring up when you normalize something, especially when you normalize it too quickly. Because just a few years ago, America ended up legalizing gay marriage. Now that was a Supreme Court case, and as I understand it too, a lot of Americans there still were not necessarily on the side of allowing people to get married, but that's what was the case. And ever since then, it's just taken a huge toll. It's now getting into trans rights, but they want absolutely everything. They're trying to take the whole cake, I guess would be the way that I describe it. And especially when we're discussing what's going on in Canada. Oh, actually, before I even bring that up, there's this whole thing we even heard over the last couple weeks about this whole trans kid. It was this kid who knew since he was 2 years old that he was transsexual. He was transgender. Even when I think I remember some of my young memories, but I'm pretty sure that even when I was some 5, 6, 7 years old, I didn't know what I wanted at 2. I don't think anybody remembers anything that goes on when they were that young. So the idea that this was the kid's choice is absolutely stupid. It was whoever the parents were trying to make themselves. They were trying to put themselves ahead in the progressive game. They want to make themselves seem so tolerant and so progressive that they're allowing their kid to make this decision. Well, what happens if a kid actually goes ahead with this sort of thing? It's going to affect them quite negatively as they're growing up. I mean, if you start to say, for the sake of argument, that it's a boy, well, you're going to start giving him hormone blockers and give him estrogen pills. Are you going to get him surgery to cut his dick off? And then what happens when later on in life he ends up deciding, well, you know what? I actually think I am a man. Well, guess what? You've caused too much damage to him physically in order for him to go back and have a normal life. Let's not forget that there's something about a 40% suicide rate inside of this community. It's a big problem. This is why we shouldn't just make it so readily available. I mean, that's also the problem with in the past with abortion, is that you made it so readily available, and you allowed people to pay for it, and you allowed people to get it pretty much for free, and then suddenly we're having about a third to a quarter of every single pregnancy in Canada is ending in abortion. There are 100,000 abortions every year, which it doesn't matter whether you're pro-life or you're pro-choice. This should be a concerning number, regardless, wherever you fall on the spectrum. The only way this wouldn't be a concerning number is if you were actually pro-abortion, where you just say you want people to have an abortion. It's a great thing to have an abortion. I'm getting a little bit off topic of what I'm talking about. I'm getting a little bit off topic, but it's sort of like falls underneath the same idea. And this is, again, where we're getting into the problems in Canada, because we've allowed things to happen that should never have happened that should never have ever happened. For instance, this. Supreme Court clarifies Canada's bestiality law in ruling. Oh, gotta move myself again. There we go. The parliamentarians who wrote the Canadian bestiality law understood the word to imply the physical penetration of an animal, and is not the role of jurists to broaden the definition to include other acts, the country's top court ruled Thursday. In a decision that was supported by all but one of the 7 justices, now that's concerning, the Supreme Court upheld the acquittal of a British Columbian man who was charged with bestiality after compelling the family dog to sexually abuse his 16-year-old stepdaughter. Now, first of all, this is not something that should ever have been. This is not something he should have ever been acquitted for, because he was using the dog to sexually abuse an underage child. So there's absolutely no way I think he ever should have been acquitted for any of this. But this is also the problem: is underneath the Trudeau government, we've allowed stuff like bestiality in order to be legalized. How fucked up is that? How fucked up is that? That we're actually allowing the idea that humans and animals can now engage in sexual intercourse. This is what I worry about when I take a look at This is what I worry about when I take a look at what they want to do when they're talking about this whole pedosexuality thing. I feel like it's going to end up going down this direction, and then it may even in some day in a court case similar as this, people are going to get acquitted because of it. So it's just it just bugs me whenever I see things like this. All right, so we're going to quickly go to the chat, and then we'll check out the next story. Let's see. More than 6 watching. Oh, Grace says, yep, I know that. Justin Trudeau, cringe channel. YouTube is trying to flush me down the memory hole. It doesn't surprise me that that's what they're trying to do, Justin, because I mean, you have a great parody account of our current joke in chief. So the fact that you're trying to be suppressed doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But don't give in. Keep doing what you're doing. Call me cringy. Sorry, I missed that. All right, I will call you cringy from now on. I won't call you Justin. I will make sure of that. Let's see. Quiet man, I'm going to be sick. Believe me, you and me both, buddy. Just like Tommy and the groomers in the courts in the UK, this garbage may be what finally wakes up and motivates normal men and women to stand up for common sense and anger politeness, killing culture. Sexy hamsters are irresistible, according to the Canadian government. Soon pet stores will give out condoms at the door. Oh! That's a good one, but just the imagery of that is just gross. Now, the next story that I have for you all is it's not dealing with Canada, but it deals with the whole idea of politically correct culture. And as George Carlin said, political correctness is intolerance disguised as tolerance. And I think that's a very important quote, especially with what we're going to see here in the next story. So this story is actually dealing with Baltimore in America. From the USA Today, Baltimore police stopped noticing crime after Freddie Gray's death. A wave of killings followed. So for those who don't remember, Freddie Gray was, there was a video of him getting arrested. He was thrown in the back of a police van, and then it was reported that while he was in there, his neck ended up getting broken. They were believing that the police were driving erratically and he wasn't strapped in properly. And then he ended up breaking his neck, and it led to a lot of riots in Baltimore. It was all part of the Black Lives Matter, one of their main riots that ended up happening, and you know them. They ended up burning down half their own city because of it. It was such a great idea. But then then there was a change inside the Baltimore police force for how they conducted themselves, and it led Baltimore down this path. So, just before a wave of violence turned Baltimore into the nation's deadliest big city, a curious thing happened in its police force. Officers suddenly stopped noticing crime. I wonder why. Police officers reported seeing fewer drug dealers on street corners. They encountered fewer people who had open arrest warrants. Police questioned fewer people on the street. They stopped fewer cars. This had to do with the fact that they were dealing with so much of people calling them racist and targeting the black community. They're going to definitely change the way that they're going to do things, and this has had effects in other cities as well with different police forces. There's been reports in the past about cops who have gone through this situation. Its murder rate reached an all-time high last year. 342 people were killed. Uh-oh. Did I lose the stream? Did I lose the stream, or are you guys still with me? Just said OBS recently reconnected. Nope, seemed to be all good. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Just got a notice saying that OBS reconnected, so I felt like I may have, the stream got dropped or something there for a second. We seem to be all good now, though. Back? Okay, so you guys lost me for a second there, right? Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what ended up happening. But But we'll go back and we'll cover just what the part before this. So it said what officers are doing is they're driving looking for it. They've got horse blinders on, said Kevin Forrester, a retired Baltimore detective. The surge of shootings and killings that followed has left Baltimore easily the deadliest large city in the United States. Its murder rate reached an all-time high last year. 342 people were killed. The number of shootings in some neighborhood has more than tripled. One man was shot to death steps from a police station. Another was killed driving a funeral procession. This is what happens in the politically correct world, where now it is a bigger crime just to be perceived as targeting somebody who may actually be justified in targeting, and then suddenly instead the police aren't doing their jobs, and then people are dying. This is what's going to end up happening, and then we're going to see as Baltimore is pretty much going to become a third world city or something like that if it just keeps going on this way. Police aren't going to do anything about it because it's not. While yes, the police do own this because they are the ones who are in charge with protecting the city. This really is what ends up happening with these sort of protesters, with political correctness getting out of hand. A city that actually was that was just being kept under wraps by the police now suddenly is exploding with violence. I think I had something else. Yeah. Millions of police records show officers in Baltimore respond to calls quickly as ever, but they now begin far fewer encounters themselves. By 2014 to 2017, dispatch records show that a number of suspected narcotic offenses police reported themselves dropped 30%. The number of people they reported seeing with outstanding warrants dropped by half. The number of field interviews, instances in which police approached someone for questioning, dropped 70%. It's not like the situation got better. It's not like the crime was going down or anything. It was quite the opposite. Crime was going up. But this is what the cops ended up doing. They stopped doing their jobs simply because they said, okay, you're saying what we're doing already is racist, then we'll take a step back and we'll see what ends up happening. Now, by doing this, there's people that are suffering because of it. I mean, this is covering a few things. I don't know what the sexual assault rate in that city is, but it really cannot be any good. And all we have to do is look at the data itself and what it has to say. As we take a look at this graph, how policing and crime changed in Baltimore. And we can see where it'll probably resume in just a second. Oh, no. Okay. There we go. So we see, boom, that's where Freddie Gray arrests and dies. Protests happen, and officer charged and indicted, and then we're seeing all sorts of all over the place as things are going up and down, up and down. But mainly, crime and shootings, homicides, and assaults are still staying more on the higher side, while actions initiated by police are going down. Now, what ended up happening here in that place where they cross, and then right here in the middle, where it says action initiated by police were higher, we had a farther drop in crime. Now, I don't know what actually led to that, though there were the exchanges. I think it was that the police continued to try to do their job, but as they faced more hardship in doing it, and probably when they changed the way that they ended up interacting with people, that's when things went bad for Baltimore. And we're going to see more of that. I mean, one of the main things in the Ontario election, in one of the debates, was had to do with the whole carding situation. See me? I don't know. OBS is freezing up on me, so I'm going to continue right now. There we go. So one thing that ended up happening in the Ontario election that happened just a couple months ago was carding was brought up. Carding suddenly became a situation because they were talking about how it was profiling certain individuals, certain communities. Mainly, we're talking about the black community was the main one. But they ended up saying how it needs to stop, it's racist, blah, 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 blah. But the thing was, with the carding situation, is it actually led to reduced crimes such as shootings. And one reason is because gangsters and people who are engaged in this sort of activity, they realized that if they realized that they could be stopped too and carded, checked for weapons, all this. This was always a possibility. So when they ended up taking this away, suddenly they realized that they had an opportunity. They could carry their weapons around again. And also the other thing was, if there were warrants out for their arrest, they could be stopped where their ID was checked, and then suddenly they end up getting arrested because they are a well-known gangster. But this is what ends up happening with this sort of situation, is just you're going to see that it's going to be the same sort of thing. And we are seeing the same sort of thing right now in Toronto, because we're having a lot more shootings. We're having a lot more interactions. We're having a lot more shootings, a lot more assaults, and things like these sort of crimes, these sort of nature of crimes are happening a lot more. So it's going to be... I don't know how Baltimore is going to do, but I'm not expecting great things for the city. I'm pretty sure it's just going to keep going down into hell in a handbasket. Let's quickly see. I think I saw a couple more posts, so we'll see what people has to say. Oh, there you go. Lil Grey Cells brought it up for me. He was talking about Toronto before I even brought it up. And then Esben Purple, racist. The cry of the progressives, racist, homophobic, misogynist. Which, small little rant, the word misogyny and how easily it's thrown around pisses me off, because it talks about a hatred of women. It's like being, from where I can tell, being sexist and misogynist are two very different things. Because being misogynist is a hatred for women, and there are people out there that carry a hatred for women, but not too many, I would say. But the average guy just gets called a misogynist these days, and it's a little stupid. So that's my small rant about the word misogyny. Somebody else, Quiet Man says, oh, Trudeau Cringy says, that's right, all these shootings are black on black crimes. Of course, they have to be profiled, same with terrorists. Quiet Man said, math is racist, statistics are racist, truth. Well, you better believe that's good or racist. I better believe that's good and racist. And that's the thing that people don't want to bring up. Well, as what Cringy said, he ended up saying that it's black on black crime. Well, the stats are high up there. It doesn't bring anybody pleasure in talking about this thing. It's not like we like going out and saying that the black community has more violence or more assaults that happen in it, but it is the truth, and that has to be brought up. You have to be able to speak the truth before you can make the proper corrections in order to change the situation. No. I'm running out of fuel. Damn it. Hold on. Give me 1 second, everyone. It's funny, actually. My Zippo was working just fine earlier. It always seems to run out right at the last fucking second when I need it the most. Whether that means I'm going out and I need it, or when I'm on a live stream and I'd like it just to work and not worry about it. But it can never be that easily, can it? Smoke in the eye. Smoke in the eye. Lovely. And we will get right into the next story in just a minute. For some reason, all the pages suddenly came up blank. Don't worry, we're not focusing too much on the actual articles themselves. I just need them to point something out. There we go. Starting to pop up now. There we go. So most, probably some of the big news is recently has to do with, you know what, maybe it's not. Your Zippo is racist. Quiet Man, you're funny. I like you. Ah, damn it. Things are being stupid again. Anyway, so the next story that we're talking about is, as everyone probably remembers, that just a few weeks ago, maybe most a month, I don't even think it's been that long, we were having the parody cabinet, that was hashtag parody cabinet, going around on Twitter, where we were having people, like the most biggest one that we knew about was Catherine McKenna having a fake parody account. And apparently some dumbasses out there were actually confusing it for the real Catherine McKenna, which I think is hilarious. Because, like, if you checked out what sort of tweets that this account was putting out, it was obviously making fun of Catherine McKenna. But a lot of people seem to be confused by it. And the Trudeau government went out of their way in order to get the account closed down. And what ended up happening? A bunch more popped up in the process. I thought it was great. But recently, there's actually been another account that was closed down, another parody account, and this was Iqra Khalid's account. And Iqra Khalid is the MP from, it's some area. I can't remember exactly where it was right now. But she's just an MP, but she's most well known for being the architect of the M103 report. She was the one talking about how there's a lot of Islamophobia in Canada and things had to be done about it. It was pretty much, a lot of people saw it as the prelude to implementing blasphemy laws against Islam, which yes, it is just a motion maybe, but this is just, we see where the Trudeau government takes this sort of thing. So without a doubt, we were going to see something that was going to come up, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I've noticed that the only time Iqra Khalid really seems to come up, when she makes her own presence known, not when people take interest in her, has to do whenever it comes to Islamophobia or racism or any of that stuff. Because it was M103. And then the most recent one has to do with this, the parody account getting taken down, because she was claiming it was spewing hatred. Hatred against Iqra Khalid, hatred against the Muslims. This is what she ended up complaining about. So, but the one thing that for me that I found most interesting, it's not so much the story itself, how she did this, but she got into contact with Twitter and ended up getting it taken down. What I thought was more interesting is if we have I switched the screen? Yeah, I switched the screen. Is we take a look through all of this all of the articles on here. Funny enough, she says, I'm not pissed off about the situation. I just got it shut down. It's no big deal, guys. But it would be a lot better if MPs could just take it on the chin like a boxer. Then you would, if you let people know that's pissing you off, then more people are just going to do it. Like what we saw with the shadow cabinet, the hashtag shadow cabinet on Twitter. Of course, more people are just going to create more accounts. And but one thing I found was very interesting when I took a look, when I was scrolling through most of these articles, actually all of them, I should say, every article about this, it was the same sort of thing. So we got that one from CBC, and then we got this one from iPolitics. We just take those, scroll through. And the thing is in a lot of these articles where they're making reference to something happening on Twitter or something that somebody said, they always provide a screen capture for the articles that, for what was said. But when I was scrolling through all these, I did not find not one screen capture of the hatred that was being spewed against Iqra Khalid by this fake account. And I thought that was very interesting. They have no problem of showing you whenever something is said and they say, look how terrible this is. And, here's the evidence for it. But in this situation, they're claiming that it was spreading a lot of hate and hatred for the Muslims, Islamophobia, racism. But they have no evidence to back them up. They got nothing on there to show to the people about how terrible these things that were being said. Now, I actually questioned if there even was an account for Iqra Khalid. And I ended up getting... I put out actually to, if everybody knows, Spencer Fernando. I ended up putting out to him, and because he wrote an article on it. But same sort of thing. He's a guy that provides screen captures, and he was talking about the situation. Of course, he was against the whole idea of Iqra Khalid shutting it down. But I tweeted out to him and asked him, do you actually think that the account existed? Because I can't find it anywhere. I can't find any of these tweets anywhere. And again, a lot of people, even if it's not the news, will screen cap the tweet and then repost it later, or will archive the tweet. But there seemed to be none of this. So I ended up posing the question to him about that. And I didn't actually hear back from that. But I did get a response from somebody who did confirm that at least it did exist. And it's Mr. Dan Costello, who I've followed him for some time, and he's great with a lot of the stuff that he ends up posting. But as you can see up the top here, I ended up saying, like, I can't find it anywhere. I don't see tweets by 3 different articles and don't have a single screen cap. And I feel that they are making it up. And he ended up coming back to me. He says, there are some, don't recall any of them saying anything as described. So once again, I just thanked him and sort of like what I thought was going on. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it up to push their agenda. And as he ended up applying again, he says, like I said, there was more than one, perhaps 3. I was partial to one called Iqra. It was funny. And somebody else also responded and said, there was one at least, and I was following it, but it seems to be gone now. But that is very interesting, especially I definitely, when Mr. Dan Costello ended up bringing it up and said that it was that there was one, but it wasn't saying anything as described. That to me was quite I'll take his word on it, because he's one person that's kind of has his he's got his ear to the ground. He knows what's going on, and he's constantly I think Twitter is his main way of communicating. I don't know if he really is active anywhere else, but he ended up saying that it did exist. So I'm going to take his word on it, even though I've only spoken to the guy a few times. I do believe what he says, but I also think it's very interesting. He says that it's not what they were anything they were saying as. It was none of this hatred, this racism that they're claiming it to be. And yeah, that to me is, again, this it doesn't surprise me, because especially considering they didn't provide any evidence to back it up. It doesn't surprise me, because this is the sort of thing the Trudeau government does, but more specifically, it's the sort of thing that that Iqra Khalid does. I mean, we have hate crimes in Canada. It's like every country has hate crimes, but they try and make it seem like Canadians are a racist society. We're all terrible, and this is also actually what Ahmed Hussen was doing with the way that he was talking about Lisa MacLeod. She was trying to make it seem like she was a terrible racist. The Ford government is racist. Ontarians are racist who agree with her, when it's not the case whatsoever. But this is all pushing the agenda. It's to further what they want to do. And considering, I also think, for one thing, when it comes to Iqra Khalid, the one reason she focuses so much on this is to avoid people taking notice of her past. Because Iqra Khalid has a very interesting past, if you ever get the chance to look into it. Pretty much, she's associated with some groups that are quite radical. I mean, I don't think it surprises people for some of the things that she's brought up in the past. And she also has never condemned these groups. Also, probably most recently was near the end of June, she ended up giving an announcement where she was, I think I actually may have talked about it in my last episode, but she ended up giving $23 million that was going out to fight for diversity and combat racism. And she made this announcement in front of about 24 Pakistani Canadians, and some of the groups that she was sending the money to were quite interesting. They had their own history that is not the best, and I'm going to see if I can quickly pull it up. It was an article in the Toronto Sun by Tariq Fatah. And Tariq Fatah, I like him. He's pretty good. I'm just give me a minute. I'll see if I can find it still. Also, if anybody is interested, you can also go read what I ended up writing about the situation. I have a Steemit account, and that's kind of where I end up posting my own. I guess it's really a blog. I can't really call it an article for the type of site that Steemit is. But I have a Steemit account, and I go and sort of write my own blogs there. And the last one I posted, which was either yesterday or the day before, had to do with Iqra Khalid and the whole situation with her. And if it piques your interest, you can go there. And I gave out I think a pretty detailed blog post about the whole situation. I will apologize. My computer is being super slow right now. Again, I run this off a shitty laptop, so it doesn't really surprise me. Eventually, I'm going to try and invest in a actual proper monitor, and then it'll be hopefully things will run a little bit better. But yeah, this is my one I ended up doing in Steemit. If you just go look up Knucklehead, you will find me. Same icon as I used on YouTube, if it ever interests you. And kind of just going through, talking about the whole situation. Yeah, don't know if anyone is interested, but thought I'd just shill my own shit, because why the hell not? Why the hell not? So, while I'm waiting for my computer to actually do what it's supposed to do, we're going to go check out the chat real quick. See what you all are talking about. Zippo's racist? That's right. Esben Purple. Cobra symbols are racist. Perseus Gold. What do you think of the fact that there was an emergency meeting of Parliament in Ontario at the same time that Stephen Harper met with John Bolton at the White House on July 2nd? Conspiracy fuel. Interesting. My guess is probably, if anything, if it had any relation to it, it probably was just all concerning the fact that Stephen Harper was even going there to discuss what was going on with John Bolton. I mean, I'm not a big fan at all of John Bolton, but I think it was the idea that they were probably worried that Stephen Harper was going to blow holes in a lot of the Trudeau narrative and a lot of things they tell Trump. I think that is probably the big thing behind it, because, I mean, Stephen Harper has no love for Justin Trudeau. He has no love for the way that Justin Trudeau is running this country right now. So that wouldn't surprise me if that's what it's about. But I'd have to look more into it before I could give an actual proper analysis of it. Because, again, this is really the first I'm really taking notice of it. I think I may have heard about that emergency meeting, but I didn't really put two and two together. She is absolutely a foreign state actor, provably. Quiet Man. Oh my god, I heart climate and fuzzy things. Woo, gender budget, lols. I am right, ladies. Totally serial. That's from Quiet Man. That's fucking hilarious. Copa Lives Matter. Zionist Warhawk. Esben Purple. Who are we talking about there when we say the Esben Purple? Who are we talking about when we talk about Zionist Warhawk? Do you mean, was that in reference to Spencer Fernando? Is that who you're talking about? Perseus Gold. Let's go ahead. I remember starting to share Spencer Fernando when he was less than 200 followers on Twitter. Perseus Gold. That said, Michelle Empel is someone who follows me on Twitter. Cough. Nice. I actually I got followed by Doug Ford pretty early into his campaign. When he came in, I ended up tweeting out something about him, and then he ended up following me. Although I think that's something he does with a lot of people. Because another one of my a guy I talked to is Top Leaf Media. He ends up discussing. He ended up getting followed by Doug Ford too. I think it's one of his 8 followers or something on Twitter. Versus Gold. Until I was banned. They're going after all the good people. Hussen doesn't have a verified account anymore. No, he doesn't. And actually, if you want a good, funny video on that, go check out Little Gray Cell's video. He just released it today, and it's hilarious. It's 30 seconds long, and it's great. Maybe we'll quickly check that out before we leave today. Anyone against Ford can eat shit and die. What's Quiet Man? What's Steemit? Steemit is just another social media account that I guess it's still in its beta phase according to them, but yeah, it's just another social media account. I guess I would probably compare it a little more to something like Minds, but yeah, you can go check it out. You can go check it out and just see what it's all about. Bolton and Harper, PNAC, Bolton and Harper. Alrighty, so I finally managed to, my computer is finally working with me. So we got this article that came out by Tarek Fatah, and when discussing everything that's going on with Iqra Khalid, and this will probably be the last story of the day. So it's starting right here. So he says the two groups as being potential recipients of the new funding is the National Council of Canadian Muslims, a former branch of the U.S.-based Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, that was named in 2008 as an unindictable co-conspirator connected to the largest terror funding trial in U.S. history. NCCM has denied links to CARE. And then the other one was Islamic Relief, a worldwide charity accused of links to Islamist terror extremism by Middle East forums, Israel, and United Arab Emirates, among others. And he goes on, there is no solid record that the Canadian arms of these two organizations have contributed to current problematic behaviors. Nonetheless, for over a year, many Muslim Canadians, including yours truly, Tarek Fatah, my son colleague Farzana Hassan, as well as many other Muslim critics of Islamism, has warned that M103 initiative was much more than the victimhood culture of guilt being forced onto ordinary Canadians. So this is something that was approved by Iqra Khalid. And the thing was, too, about this was that she ended up giving this announcement behind closed doors. There was no Canadian press that was there. So I'm not exactly sure how they came across this, about how Tarek Fatah came to know about this. Maybe it's because he has people in the community that he knows and managed to get the information from them. But the point is it was not widely reported on before that reason. But you know what? If we just have a quick time, why don't we go... And speaking about Ahmed Hussen not having a verified Twitter account, we can just go quickly watch that little Grey Cells video. It was very well done. It was very well done, actually. It's funny. So, yeah, Iqra Khalid is one of those people, though, just finishing up on that I do not trust whatsoever. I could not trust her any farther than I could throw her. And she's another one of these people that originate from another country, gets into power in Canada, and then is going off telling every Canadian about how terrible and racist they are. And it just seems to be a continuing trend with a lot of Trudeau's governments. Let's not forget that Ahmed Hussen is from Somalia, and he put out a video on Canada Day with Justin Trudeau where they ended up congratulating Somalians, Canadian Somalians, I suppose, but they ended up congratulating Somalians on Somalia Independence Day before they gave credit to Canada, it being Canada Day. It's funny, Trudeau can't help but screw up when it comes to Canada Day. I mean, last year he ended up forgetting Alberta. Conveniently, I'm pretty sure it was no accident, but he ended up forgetting Alberta when he was giving his speech on Canada 150. Also didn't really remember, if I'm remembering correctly, he wasn't exactly sure what year it was, because at one point he said it was like Canada's 149th birthday. He didn't remember this despite the fact we spent $200,000 on a giant rubber ducky, which was a worthless piece of shit. But, that's our leader, guys. That is our leader. And the other thing is, too, when we're talking Justin Trudeau, is I thought was a little funny, was the fact that in the Brussels NATO summit, people were trying to actually suggest that Justin Trudeau won the argument between Trump when he did very little to actually show Canada's contribution. He wasn't going to raise Canada's defense spending budget. But all he said is that we're going the day before, he ended up saying that Canada was committed to staying in Latvia longer, till like 2023, I think it was. And then he also wanted to take a lead in the Iraq mission, which is training the people in Iraq in order to defend themselves. So that's our fearless leader. That's good old Justin Trudeau. And sorry about that. Here we go. This is Lil Grey Cells video.
And I'll be on my Twitter shit too. See, I ain't verified yet. See, I ain't verified yet. See, I ain't verified yet. Verified yet. Verified yet. Verified yet. Yeah, I ain't verified yet.
Oh no!
You're a loser. Loser.
Oh, that was so well done. That was perfect. I thought that was friggin' amazing. Well done. I only saw that maybe a few minutes before I actually went live with this. Maybe a little longer. Maybe it was like 20 minutes or so. But yeah, I thought that was very good for talking about everything that was going on with Ahmed Hussen, how he's not verified anymore. All right. We're going to the chat once more, one final time, and then I'm out. Let's see. Percy's Gold. I'm in the GTA in my final stage of planning, saving on moving back to the countryside. I actually understand what you mean when you say that. I mean, I'm pretty open about that I live in Ottawa, and I'm trying to get out of the city too eventually at some point sooner rather than later. I'd like to move into a small town or something like that. As long as the internet connection is good, because I'd like to continue doing this sort of thing. But yeah, I'm trying to get out too. I've had enough. Enough of the city. Perseus, buy my own farm. That'll be kind of nice. Actually, yesterday I was out in the Quebec side, and we were driving through some country farmland. That was really beautiful, and that was once again solidified that I want to get out to an area like that. Just a lot of green, right on the lake. It was fantastic. Only thing is, there's not a lot of industry there unless you're a farmer. But that was something I would worry about as I'm doing the move, as I'm planning where I'm going. I went to the same middle school as Tarek. Seriously? Oh, no way. That's kind of cool. Let's see. Well, plays with things in the tub. Quiet Man. Trudeau gonna finally find those pesky WMDs. Thank God. Quiet Man. Nice work, Gray Cells. Yeah, you did a great job on that video. And anybody who's not already subscribed, go subscribe to his channel. He's got great content. Actually, he released a video just the other day. It's Welcome to Canada, ISA. It's about 12 minutes long, and it's well researched, well done, and you're going to learn a few things just in that 12 minutes. So go subscribe to his channel, anybody who doesn't. And I want to thank you all for joining me on the podcast today. It's been fun having you here. I kind of enjoyed doing this too. I kind of enjoyed doing it live. This was my first time I've actually live streamed my episodes of the podcast, but I think I'm going to continue that in the future. I enjoyed it.